Hey, my name's Sam Gostnell, 6'1", 168 pounds, blue eyes, brown hair, and tan skin. I haven't made a feature film yet.
Okay.
Okay, now I'm gonna
love
do it.
that
Now I'm
one.
gonna do a real
I kind of
one.
want that
But
one.
you can do. Oh, that one's gonna make me sound like such a douchebag. Well, there's a podcast with Hayden and Yannick. My name is Sam, and I'll be on it. We haven't made it yet, but soon we will. We haven't made it yet, but soon we will. And that's the intro. Making it for me is making movies, being able to make movies that I want to make, when I want to make them, and having the freedom and the resources and the time to just be able to make films, because it's my favorite thing in the whole world to do.
You felt most in your element when you were literally able to focus on directing.
Yeah,
and I mean,
exactly.
That's step one, obviously, because that's what being a director is. But
but just the whole process of making movies, I find so fun. Like from pre to post production, it's just such a. I just love the journey of it, and I just love making movies, and I want people to see them. I think I'm going to make some cool movies, and so I want I want them to be out in the world too.
Yeah.
You live in LA. You've lived here for what, longer than Yannick, right? You kind of went straight here after.
Yeah, I moved here in September of 2014, and I graduated high school in 2014, and then I moved down here pretty much right after that. And so what is that, like 8 years?
Yeah. And explain a little bit about what field you're in, what you do.
I do a little bit of everything, but I think primarily what I've been doing for work for the past 8 years is branded content. So video content, kind of like low budget, high volume video content for brands. In the last year or two, I've kind of started focusing on skincare. So like the kind of stuff that we would shoot would be for, mostly like internet-based stuff, Instagram ads, TikTok videos, videos that will be like shown, like pre-roll on YouTube, and then stuff for their website, stuff if like Sephora's doing a promotion of a certain brand, I'll shoot something for Sephora's website or for their channels.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it's like, I would say 20% shooting and then 80% editing.
And I'm always interested in the whole like almost coming of age story of going into LA and trying to figure it out. I was lucky enough to like know Yannick, and Yannick kind of spread into like getting to know you and getting to know everybody to kind of help me with my connections. But it sounds like you just came into LA with not much and just had to whittle your way up to finding the people that you like working with. How did that go?
Yeah, so I I knew somebody down in Orange County, and then I knew a couple people that weren't really my peers necessarily, but like a family friend or something like that I would be introduced to, but yeah, I didn't really know anybody. I didn't have any friends in Los Angeles when I moved here. And so I was just meeting people, in different ways. The two roommates that I got when I was 18 were in their, I think they were like 30. And the girlfriend of one of the roommates ended up becoming a friend of mine, and she introduced me to a lot of people. A girl that Yannick and I went to high school with, her dad is a producer.
Okay.
And he's based in Oregon, but he got me my first PA job in LA on like an Apple commercial. So it was like a pretty big production. And so I was just kind of piecing things together like that, connections like that. And then I started having friends move down here. Dakota moved down here, another friend of Yannick and I's from high school. And
An avid listener
of
the pod.
Yeah. Long-time listener, first-time contributor. And then we, so I had him, and then we just like made friends and met people and kind of created a community. And then you meet people on set, and it just expands out from there. And then other people started coming in, like Yannick moved down, Sophie, and then some of our friends from high school. And then I already had friends down here. They met new people. And so it just becomes this kind of ever expanding community.
Yeah.
On that topic, I think you're an interesting podcast guest because you have this strange ability to like find work and connections in like the strangest little areas and ways. Like I remember you've once made like thousands of dollars from sending one email connecting two people doing like the COVID thing, and I just know there's a lot of interesting stories and maybe some things to like learn from, or people to get perspective from, just in what strange ways you can find connections. And the way I watch you network is like the way people are supposed to network, which is you're supposed to make friends. You're not supposed to just be like, hey, we're going to do work stuff together, right? At the bar. Like for you, it always feels like you're trying to make a friend first, and then if that leads to work, then great. And if not, then that's fine too.
Yeah.
You just have this like you figured something out. I don't know. I think it's just your personality, honestly, because it's just you. But yeah,
I think part of it might just be personality, and I'm outgoing and I like making friends. I also really don't like, at this point, I think 8 years into being in LA, my least favorite conversation to have at a bar is like some random person coming up to me and being like, so I'm making I'm working on this project and I'm doing this, and we've got this guy involved, and it never, even if it is 100% legit and they're actually doing this thing, it never feels like a real thing to me. And so I don't even like talking about that stuff when I meet people for the first time. I just like making friends and meeting new people. And then a lot of times what ends up happening is it's like a secondary thing. So like I'll meet somebody and we'll like start hanging out, and then they have a friend who's a DP, and then I get introduced to that friend, and then that friend and I work together or something like that. Yeah. So, but yeah, I mean, I think with networking, you never, there's no point in trying to be like strategic about it, or going into meeting new people with like the goal of trying to, drum up work out of it. Yeah. The only caveat to that would be like if you're on set, if you're like if you're working, and it's good to like maybe talk to the like producers or something and be like, hey, I want to work, the people that hired you, and just make it clear that you want to work. Or if you're like at a networking event, I guess.
Because you're already in the work environment and you're not trying to bring work to somebody's like leisure time.
Exactly. But even on set, like, it's just good to make friends with people. Yeah. And I think those connections are just more valuable in the long run anyway.
Maybe it's because we have so much flexibility with choosing who we get to work with, because we're not all locked into the same work environments. Networking is more like dating for somebody you could see as your colleague versus just looking for somebody that can use a camera, because everybody can use a camera, but you're right. Like, is this somebody I'd want to like spend time with, kind of a thing.
That's such a huge part of people that you collaborate with, because I've been on sets where, maybe it's a short film, maybe it's a commercial, and there's like one person who's just an asshole, and it just ruins it for everybody. Yeah. You know what I mean? And it's just not fun. Nobody's having a good time. And so I think especially if you're working on a project that, people aren't getting paid a lot, or it's kind of more of a, like a short film, for example, where you're like calling in favors, it's so important to make sure that you build a group of people that are going to work well together and have a good time. Yeah. Because it's almost they're not doing it for the money at that point, you know,
just to have the experience.
Yeah. Or just because they want to help you out.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah. Because they like you,
Yeah. I did notice that, especially being in LA, it's a little bit different working in Portland. Everybody has their own life in Portland, and then they do film. But so much of people's life here is film. I mean, everybody has hobbies and whatnot, but I notice it's so easy to grab a conversation of, yes, they're talking about work, but just people love what they do and they love
Yeah.
talking about what they do. And for me, it's just like I'm interested hearing just what they have to say. And you do have to kind of bridge the line of making sure you're not so focused on work
Yeah,
or
yeah.
like, oh, give me tips and
Yeah.
uh, because it's like, yeah, like you were saying, they just want to freaking live their
Yeah.
life. They're not working right now. They just freaking want to
Yeah.
have a beer.
Yeah. And I might rephrase how I said that. I like talking about work. I actually like talking to people about their jobs, or like, it's a great way to connect with people, and especially in a city like LA where the majority of people you run into are going to be working in the same industry a lot of the time. I like that. I don't like feeling like I'm being pitched, or
Oh, totally.
like,
Yeah.
or somebody's, or I'm like have to pitch somebody.
Yeah.
Like that kind of conversation is annoying to me. But like if somebody wants to be like, oh God, dude, it's so hard to navigate the Universal lot, like, and tell a funny story about like, like hitting Bruce Willis with a golf cart or something like that.
Yeah.
Like I like that stuff. That's all like super relatable. So
I kind of wanted to, so obviously, like people, you have your own little career path, and you did this skincare thing, but ultimately, you want to also, well, I know you well, I guess for context and if you're listening, you want to like make and write and direct movies, right? That's still
yeah,
the
basically
dream.
since I was 8 years old, all I've wanted to do is make movies,
Yeah.
and not necessarily skincare digital advertising, which I'm
Close
happy
second.
which I'm happy to do right now while
pays
I'm
bills
exactly, it pays the bills, it's fun, it's creative, I like working on set, I like doing all that. But yeah, I just want to make movies.
Yeah. And I just kind of wanted to go back and like from the beginning, I know you have like some clips of you when you were 8 years old and just kind of like goofing around, but like through your line of like creative project that you've put together and how they've kind of shaped the things that you're working on now, starting with maybe the desert movie, the Albert Desert movie. I don't know if you'd consider that like your first bigger narrative thing. Would you consider that your first?
Honestly, the first movie that I ever made when I was 8 or 9 was called Savior of the Golden Pearl, and it was like a ripoff of the Lord of the Rings, essentially. And but that movie,
It's a badass title.
that movie
cool.
was super fun, and we had a showing for it, and people came, and it was great. And then when I was 11 or 12, I made a movie called King Tumpy, which was less of a ripoff of Lord of the Rings, but still
In the vein.
and still fantasy, still very
Yeah.
much high fantasy, swords and goblins and stuff. And that movie was the first time I ever made money from
Oh.
making a movie, any piece of content.
Yeah.
Because, well, first of all, I just want to say, like, the community I grew up in, and especially my mom and dad, were so involved and so supportive of me from a young age, of just being creative in general, but especially of my love for making movies. And they helped me, I think I learned this from both of them, this like a thing of networking and making friends, but they were so good at getting everybody involved in the community. And so,
Oh, yeah.
for one of the scenes, my dad and my half brother built like a full village by the creek on our property. I grew up in rural Oregon, and then we had like, I don't know, 20 or 25 friends of mine and their parents come, get all dressed up and be like background in this scene. So I had like this full on, like, like I realized this vision, which was just so cool.
$20,000 in Hollywood.
Yeah, yeah, exactly. Which we did for, essentially for free. And everybody had so much fun with it and got dressed up and got, brought their own props and things like that. And would, somebody's dad had like a sword replica that he brought, and it was just so much fun. And then, so I made that movie. I think it was, I don't know, 15 minutes long or something like that. And it was the first one where I was like, okay, I'm not going to be in this movie myself. I'm going to direct it. I had watched enough Lord of the Rings behind the scenes and Star Wars behind the scenes
You were
featurettes
ready.
on the
Yeah, you
DVDs
got
that
it.
I knew the director didn't have to star in the movie as well. And so, yeah, so that was just, really the first time that I felt like, oh, this is like a movie that I'm making with like a group of people and a crew and stuff. And then, like I said, we had a showing and at the like local community center, and people came and there was like donations, and I sold merch and I sold DVDs, I think. And my dad created a band. My dad played the kind of villain in it, like the mean kind of stepdad character. And so he created a whole band and like around that character. And then played music in character with his friends who he played music with, who all dressed up for it.
Oh my God.
And I made like, honestly, I don't remember how much I made, but I remember it was a trash bag full of cash, like ones and tens and fives. And I just remember being like, okay, this is it. This is lucrative. This is the business I need to be in. And so, yeah, that was actually, I guess, and now that I'm thinking about it, that was the first and last time I made money from like a narrative short film. But it really,
a literal
bag of cash. Yeah. That I stuffed in this like cutout part of the drywall in my bedroom, like kind of a hiding spot.
Just in case somebody.
Just in case, you know? Yeah.
Do you remember what the story was about at all?
Yeah. It was, I think I had just seen Pan's Labyrinth, in my first date ever, which my dad took me and Lauren Staggs, shout out Lauren Staggs, to go see, was Pan's Labyrinth in 5th grade, which is not a 5th grade movie to see. And it definitely traumatized me. But also I was like, holy shit, this is so cool. Yeah. Even though I closed my eyes for the worst parts. And so I just love magical realism. I actually met Guillermo del Toro recently on a date.
Really?
To see, I'm not kidding. Yeah. To see a movie. He was in the theater. And I had made, this is actually a great side story. I know I'm jumping around here, but I made a friend. I as I was walking into the movie, with this person I was on a date with, there was this guy, these two like security guys in suits kind of standing outside. And one of them like made a joke at me, and he goes, hey, can I have some of that popcorn? And I said, hey man, like when I come back out, I'll give you what's left over, just to like go along with his bit. Uh-huh. And then we come back out, and I see the security guy again, and there's this kind of crowd of people standing around somebody, but I didn't even notice it. And the girl I was with went to the bathroom, and I walked up to the security guy, and I was like, man, I am so sorry. I threw out the bag of popcorn. And at first he was like, what? And then he like realized I was making a joke about earlier. And so he laughed, and he was like, oh, nice, man. And fist bumped me. And then I like look over at the mob of people, and I'm like, holy shit, that's Guillermo del Toro. And he was doing, it was like at some random theater in Burbank, and he was just doing like a screening for Pinocchio.
Oh, wow.
And so I beelined it back to the security guard, and I was like, hey man, like Guillermo del Toro is one of my favorite directors of all time, like really a huge inspiration into the kind of movies that I want to make. Would it be possible to talk to him? And he was like, you know what? He's like, I like you. Like, he's like, we're leaving right now, but like, I'll get you in there. And he literally like moved the crowd of people around, and he was like, and Guillermo was like, looked, and he was like, we're good to go. And then he like let me sneak in, and I just had like a 30-second interaction with him, but it was so cool. I kind of speed ran. I was like, I saw, I was on a date and I saw this in 5th grade, and I just want to say like, you've been an inspiration to me. And he shook my hand. And the first thing he said was, he goes, are you making movies now? And I was like, yeah, I'm still doing it. And then he goes, okay. He's like, good. That's what I wanted to hear. And then he goes, we'll meet again, and like winked and shook my hand with both of his hands. I was like, that's so cool.
That's the coolest thing to hear.
Yeah. It felt really good.
That's like a memoir moment whenever you like write a story about yourself when you're 80.
Yeah.
And
yeah.
It's like one of your little highlights of like, oh, I'm doing this.
Yeah, exactly.
That's so cool.
Yeah.
Where did your spark come from? It sounds like you had this high fantasy. You like that realm of things. Were you obsessed with Lord of the Rings and all that world, and you're like, I want to make this? Or
kind of, yeah. I mean, I was always obsessed. Like, growing up in like a really rural area, I liked fantasy because it felt like I was living in that kind of nature. Fairies and dragons and all that stuff felt very real to me when I was a little kid.
Yeah, hippie Oregon supports that.
Yeah.
As all three of us know.
Exactly. But I I just have always been creative. I love to draw. I liked music. I liked things, but I loved movies, and I loved Star Wars and like Lord of the Rings, of course. And I think it was just a way bringing all of the things that I liked together and being able to create a world, I think is really what it was, is like, you know, as I got older and the fantasy world that I kind of lived in faded into reality, you know, where like, okay, maybe dragons aren't real. Maybe fairies don't live under the house or whatever.
Yeah.
I think I was mourning the loss of that. And I was like, how can I create this? Like, how can I still build this in a way that I can continue to do as I get older? And that was, it's like a form of play, you know, that I just wanted to keep going throughout the rest of my life. And I think that the world building and the creativity of making movies is really just like, you're kind of playing, you're like creating this fantasy world.
Yeah. It's one big act. We talked about this on Lauren Browning's podcast, where I discussed where like the idea, I had a lot of Santa Claus isn't real moments throughout my childhood. Not just Santa Claus, but fairies. What about dwarves? What about
and like, exactly,
because like
and it was one at a time for me too.
Exactly,
it wasn't like
no. It
I was like, wait,
thing,
so you're telling me fairies aren't real and gnomes aren't real? What the fuck?
Where does it end?
Yeah, yeah. And what, you're gonna say dragons aren't real next?
And it's so beautiful because like these things that we watched, I mean, it was just so. It meant so much for us, where of course fairies are real because we like, they're a part of our lives. Like we literally witnessed them with the movies and the stuff that we love so much. And it's a beautiful thing now that you get to be a part of this and create what Lauren called was this one big act. We're all just like, especially like talking about Santa Claus, like Santa Claus is like anybody that does it is like, we're all in on this secret of like just creating this theatrical act.
Yeah.
And we're just so kids can like have a little bit of imagination. And I love fantasy for that reason, for just making this, keeping the imagination alive. And because that's such a beautiful thing.
Yeah, absolutely. Keeping it alive. And as you get older and your tastes change, realizing that you can do that with anything. Like, you know, I got into The Matrix maybe in middle school and like, oh shit, I can make movies like this where like, you know, we're doing like kung fu and like slow motion and shooting guns and, you know, fighting things. And then as I get older and like appreciate different kinds of movies, and my taste changed from just being like into, you know, like fantasy action movies that I was into as a kid, you're still able to take that, you know, ability to create something out of nothing.
Yeah.
And then later on too, some fantasy you have, maybe like an adult fantasy about something in your personal life, relationship, friends, whatever, and then you can rebuild that fantasy then in different ways later too, you know. The dragons become like your
the fan fiction that I
summer.
wrote about you.
Yeah.
That I'm turning into a movie.
Nice.
Yeah. Hey, easy. Yeah.
No, yeah, I agree. Yeah.
Yeah. Okay, so you did your most profitable movie to date. Mm-hmm. What would you do next?
When I was 12. What would I do next?
What did you do next? What was your next project?
Okay. So after that, then I made a found footage zombie movie. And this is when, I think that was in freshman year of high school, maybe. That's when I started getting critical of my work and being, you know, when I was like 12, I was like, wow, this is so cool. And like, you know, it just felt like it was hard for me to have to me, it was the same thing as Lord of the Rings. Like the movie that I made was like just as good almost.
Yeah.
But when I was, you know, maybe 13, 14, I started getting critical and being like, okay, well, this doesn't meet the expectations that I have for making movies. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And so I think the movies that I made in high school, a lot of them I either didn't finish or I didn't end up showing because I was never happy with them or satisfied with them. Extremely valuable learning experiences, but I was never satisfied with the short films that I was making.
Yeah.
And the one that you're talking about that we shot out in the desert, you know, I did end up finishing that, but just because I was getting pressure from like a bunch of people who were involved in it to finish it, and I was never happy with it. You know, I didn't feel good about it. And so that was the last short film I made until I was 25.
Wow.
Other than little like sketch stuff I would do in a couple days with friends. But that was the last like real short film that I did.
Why do you think there was such a big break?
I think because I didn't feel like I was able to make what I wanted to make, or at the level that I wanted to make it at. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And I think I was afraid of like the rejection I would experience from myself of being like, oh, I just put in a bunch of time and resources into this and it didn't end up being good. And I didn't want to not finish something again. You know?
Yeah.
I didn't want to start something and let people down and not finish it.
Yeah.
So, well, okay, which happened actually, sorry, the short film Sheep Hills is the one I'm talking about. I did when I was 25. But when I was 23, I think we did that Deadland, that zombie movie, and I didn't finish that. I never finished that. And I did a whole crowdfunding campaign and hired actors, and we went out to the desert with like 15 people and did a whole thing. And a lot of people put a lot of time and energy and money into that. And I think that felt like a big defeat for me. I felt really like, what's the word? Just like, it just kind of put me out a little bit. And I was like, damn, like maybe I'm not able to do this, like narrative stuff. And so I think I put a lot of my energy into doing the short form ad content that I was doing, which was paying the bills. And I got really good at that.
And that one was, I mean, the desert one, just for like a little bit of context, were both also just like crazy adventures on top of also being a movie. Like the desert one, I think.
Oh my God.
We all just, we drove into, I wasn't even part of that one actually. So just from what
you were.
No, I wasn't there. Although no, at the end,
sorry. We're talking about two different desert projects. The one in high school.
The high school one.
The high school one was crazy. Yeah.
Yeah. Like you guys just went out into the desert and
got flat tires, we were in high school and we met this like
random dude.
Drunk dude who lived out there who just started giving us alcohol. And like, I mean, it was just crazy. No, this actually is, I guess, kind of on a more serious note, like we brought guns out there as props, like real guns. And we brought fucking ammo, like actual ammo with us out there because we were like, we're out in the desert. Like we'll go shooting guns when we're like which is literally exactly what happened on Rust. Again, we were 17. So like you cut us some slack, but that should never have happened on Rust. But like they were shooting the guns that they were using as props. And so they mixed the live ammo and the I think that's what happened. I mean, I don't know. That's as far as I'm aware, that's what happened.
Yeah.
But that's what we did. We had real guns that we were using as props. I remember I got my friend's dad to like lend me his handgun for the movie, you know,
just pointing it at people.
Yeah. Yeah.
God.
Yeah.
Yo.
Yeah. Luckily it was fine. Like everybody was safe and yeah.
And you live and you learn kind of thing. You keep.
I would never do that now. You know? Right. Yeah.
And then the one you did, the Deadland one, also was like a crazy adventure because there was like a sandstorm that started, right? Like
there was a sandstorm. Our DP got heat stroke the first day. Had to go to the hospital.
Really cool makeup though, because you got like some Walking Dead affiliated.
Yeah, we got makeup artists from The Walking Dead.
Yeah.
But they were, they were like, what is this amateur production out here in the desert? And I mean, the mistake I made on that one was I tried to do everything. Mm-hmm. I tried to, I was trying to do too much and I didn't have, I bit off more than I could chew with that one. And just the environment we were shooting in was really harsh. And we went camping. There was wild dogs that like attacked our camp at night. Mm-hmm. I mean, I remember getting out of the tent at like 3 a.m. in my underwear with a belt in a, you know, like literally like yelling and beating at these like this pack of
man.
dogs trying to get them. And Dakota and somebody else was up on the roof of a car, like you know, the dogs like got really like,
Oh, I remember that actually because I was sleeping. Oh yeah, I totally forgot about that part. I was sleeping on top of the car roof myself.
yeah.
Because I just didn't want to be on the floor.
And
Yeah.
then you wake up the next day to keep shooting.
yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
But I had to shoot because the DP got heat stroke.
Oh, that's right. Yeah.
Yeah.
I saw the biggest pig I've ever seen out there.
Yeah,
in
yeah.
like Slab City or whatever.
Yeah. God.
Do you remember the part? This is like one of the luckiest like things on a shoot that I might have ever witnessed. But like we were shooting that section where Dakota in zombie uniform hanging on that fence, and then suddenly in the background on that train track, it's just a huge transporter train of just tank after tank
Yeah.
after tank
Yeah.
after tank after tank.
Talk about production value.
Yeah, it's like that would
Yeah.
have cost $1 million
Yeah.
to organize it
Yeah.
in an actual movie set.
Yeah.
And then you guys like ran out despite the sandstorm to try to record it, and like got all the sand into these like rental lenses.
Yeah. It was
God, what a
horrible.
wild project.
Yeah. I mean, it was fun. It was an experience.
Yeah. I feel like the ones that I've always done with you have always been fun, but chaotic at the same time.
Yeah.
So where are you now with how you feel about making your own narrative pieces? What's your mindset right now?
I feel good. I feel ready. I made a short film like 2 years ago now, and that was, I didn't write it, and a producer and writer duo found me through like a random friend who was roommates with the writer's girlfriend, and they were these two guys, Jack and Max, and they said, hey, we want to make this movie. They brought me on as the director, and Max was a great producer, Jack was a great writer, and we really made a real movie that I was really proud of. And that was my first time being on a set where I was like, I'm just directing. Everything's taken care of. The producer's doing what the producer needs to do. The AD's doing the AD's job. Everybody's doing their job on set. We have PAs. We had everything.
Yeah.
And it was a full like professional production, low budget, but still like professional. The DP, Rob, I was a PA on a Snoop Dogg, like 29 Crimes wine commercial. And I was his driver for the day. Mm-hmm. And we just kind of hit it off. And he agreed to shoot this short film.
Wow.
Wow, you asked him. Okay.
Yeah. And
Nice.
he was amazing, and he just brought like a level of professionalism to it that was just incredible. And that went to festivals and did well, and really like kind of gave me the confidence of like, okay, yeah, I can do this. I can make something cool. I can make it look how I want it to look. I feel comfortable directing actors. And when I think back on that set and that shoot, I remember just feeling like I am in my element right now. I was like, this is exactly what I'm meant to be doing. I feel really good.
Because this was your first time like in the director's chair, not wearing any other hat. This
Exactly.
was you.
Exactly. Yeah.
What you wanted.
And like, of course I wore other hats in pre-production.
Yeah.
I had a big hand in production design and things like that. And, I worked with Jack on the writing, but like when we were on set, I was directing, and I wasn't, like you said, I wasn't wearing other hats, and it just felt really good. And I think there's a reason why there's all the separate roles that there are on set, and why it's set up the way it is, because it's a really effective way at creating something that looks and feels and is good.
There's just so much to be done to make something,
Yeah.
anything. To
Yeah.
make anything, there's so much. So like just having people in places that are good at that specific thing makes it so efficient. Where I mean, you're not running around everywhere. I've worked with people that can't like they have to put their hands on everything.
Yeah.
Like they're still the director, but it's like, oh, you're not shooting the camera right. I'll take
Yeah.
the camera, and it just they go home and like they can't sleep because they have 50 emails that they have to do, and they're burning the candle at both ends,
Yeah.
and they don't love their job.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you got to build. I mean, it's just really important to trust. Kind of going back to what I was saying in the beginning, it's like you got to be working with people that you trust and that you like, because then it allows you to focus on what you need to focus on. Like a director should be thinking about all those things, but by the time you're on set, you don't want to be worried about if the art department is going to be able to do a good job or not, or if your DP is going to be able to shoot it. If you're day one on set and you're worried that your DP's, not good, like you didn't do your job as a director. You should have made sure way in advance that you trusted and respected and knew exactly what you were getting yourself into.
That's such a good way of taking accountability too of your role, of like it's the person that you put the people that are right for each spot. So if something's wrong, then it does have you have that responsibility.
Yeah, I mean, you're responsible for making the movie. And
Yeah.
so, and look, so many things are going to go wrong.
Yeah, totally.
Everything's going to go wrong on a movie set, and you know that that's going to happen. And maybe your DP, you get there and you realize, oh shit, it's not, like you have to be able to figure that out on the fly too. But you try to, before the shoot and pre-production, you try to mitigate any of those things as much as you can.
Was there any stress involved that you had when you were directing, of like all this responsibility, all this like accountability under your direction?
Of course, there was things that, plenty of things on set that day that were stressful. But it never felt like I felt in control the whole time. And I felt like I was, the decisions that I was making, I never felt overwhelmed or like I can't make a decision. I always felt like, okay, like, give me the information. Okay, we have to do it this way now. Like I just felt like, okay, we're going to be able to, move in this direction, or, shoot that scene later, whatever it is. So I mean, you're just constantly putting out fires, but it's fun. I mean, that's part of it. That's what it is, you know?
Yeah.
And so that's that on that set specifically. I mean, there was a lot of things that were stressful, but I felt good. It was the only time I've ever been on a 12-hour shoot where at the end I was like, wait, that was 12 hours?
Oh yeah. I've had those days where it's just like I'm having so much fun.
Yeah, I
This
was
doesn't work.
like, holy shit, like that was not enough time. Like that felt like 4 hours or something,
Yeah.
you know what I mean? But of course when you're like just day playing on a set, 12 hours is a long time.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. And I mean, talk a little bit about that, of like, it sounds like you want to go more into the narrative realm. Are you gonna try to balance between like day playing and still keep like your corporate kind of connections, as well as venturing into the abyss of creative narrative world?
Yeah, so my plan essentially is I don't really work I did art department for a while, and people still hire me to do set construction stuff sometimes, but very infrequently. And so I'll take those jobs just because I like building things. It's fun for me. But in terms of how I'm going to make money and how I'm going to make movies, the idea is just to continue to build the, like, honestly, the skincare content creation business that I've been working on for the last couple of years.
Yeah.
Continue doing that because that takes a different part of my brain, I feel like, than making movies does. And I still enjoy it, but it's just, and it's still creative, but it's not something that that creatively like sits in my head all the time. And then just working on movies. I'm shooting a short on the 10th of June, and I'm also writing a feature. And so those two are, the short is not based off the feature, but it's in line with my last short and the feature that I'm writing. They're all kind of exist within the same like tone and world. And so I'm going to take those 2 short films and the feature script, and I'm going to, try to produce this feature in spring of next year.
And do you want to get a little bit into what those projects are?
The short film is because I wanted to make another project. I'm going out of town for a couple months, mid-June, and I was feeling the itch to make something. And so I have a house out in the desert. It's like kind of a side project I've been working on, but it's a house out there that we're going to be selling in June as well. And I wanted to shoot something in that house before my business partner and I sell it. And so the idea for the short film came from on a drive back to the desert that Yannick was on with me. We kind of were driving back, and I was like, we should make something out there. And so I got home from that drive and I wrote a 10-page script in like 30 minutes, immediately sent it to Yannick and Dakota and some people. And then within like days, I was already casting the movie. And it was one of those things where I was like, okay, I need to get the ball rolling on this now, or else it's never going to happen. And I'm so excited. I'm really proud of the script. I found some incredible actors that I'm extremely excited to work with. The DP is going to be great. It's just I'm just really excited to make it happen. So it'll be a fun, creative project that I'll be able to do before I go on this trip. And while I'm on that trip, I'm going to be editing that short and then also working on the feature.
And 3rd time in a row in the desert.
Yeah.
I just can't get away from the desert. I just love it out there. At least this time we'll have air conditioning and power on site. So,
but camping again, right?
Some of us will be camping.
Some desert dogs.
No dogs. Yeah.
Right.
Hopefully. I mean, I don't. You never know.
Maybe bring a cat. Kitten.
Yeah.
That's such a creative way to like create revenue. Making the set, it's probably the only time a set's gonna actually make money because constructing the set is so much money of the budget just to make the thing, but you have the set to later sell off once you're done with it.
I've had this idea for a while of like buying a house, like maybe a dilapidated house, shooting a movie in it, and then selling the house, like fixing the house and selling it as a way to fund the movie. I don't know. It's not fully formed, but there's something there.
Yeah.
Or like making a movie in the house, and the movie, becomes popular, and then you can be like, hey, we shot this movie in this house. Like,
yeah, exactly.
It's worth $20,000 more.
I mean, even if you're literally just buying a house and then shooting it and leaving it and then selling it, would already kind of make sense because you just don't have to build a house or rent a house.
Well,
if you're already in the business
and you own
of real estate,
so you don't have to like no permits or anything.
Yeah,
like
it's
it
a lot of
takes
money
so much like paperwork that you now don't have to do.
Yeah. And it's a way to somehow convince real estate investors to invest in movies, because real estate is just one of the, safer, like classic investments that you could make. And movies are like the least safe, fucking crazy investments that you could make.
Yeah, true that. And I have to give you praise for, I mean, this is a good example of the kind of work that you do, of like your mind is so creative in the aspect of also knowing how to create revenue, but also create the thing you want to create, which is the forefront. But it's also nice to make money on the side. When I first hung out with you, you showed me your resume, and I was expecting to see like a white piece of paper and like jotting down all your credits, and you showed me this. It was like a 2-minute reel where you did a voiceover of like where you even presented like you were part of you filmed yourself doing.
Giving like a presentation.
Giving a presentation on your resume.
That's a good. That one thing has gotten me so much work.
Yeah.
Because people a lot of times like we keep talking about, hire you for your personality. And so the stuff that I shoot looks like what a million other DPs or directors have made. I mean, you can find somebody who can shoot that kind of stuff. And especially the type of content I do where it's like me and maybe 2 or 3 other people. It's a really small team. They want somebody that they can work with consistently who they like. You know what I mean? And so by showing my reel, but then also selling myself as a person and making it funny and showing my personality, I'm going to get, if you just watch a reel, you have no idea who this person is or what they're like. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Unless their work is just like outstanding, it doesn't give you much insight into what they're going to be like to work with, which is a huge part of getting jobs.
Yeah. And it's just so, I mean, I just want to give you props for that. A way to be creative, showing yourself, but also just standing out. It makes you stand out way. I mean, I don't want to call it competition. There's got to be a better word for it, but like it's allowing people to see you more than other people.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. Thank you.
Yeah. I guess we go into the future a little bit. I mean, you have this narrative you're doing soon. What do you want? Where do you want to see yourself in 10 years?
In 10 years, I want to have a ranch somewhere. And on that ranch, I want there to be basically a couple buildings that has every single thing I need to make something in it. Like building supplies, camera equipment, anything that I ever need, all the tools and resources I need to make something creative. And I want to bring people to this ranch, and I want to just make movies, and be based off of that ranch, shoot things, have a sound stage, have a volume, like a LED volume.
The Tyler Perry approach.
Exactly. The Tyler Perry approach. That just sounds so fun to me. Having a place where I can bring friends and collaborators and make movies and, be outside and ride ATVs and go fishing or whatever. And I want to make movies. I just want to keep making movies, and I want them to be better and better and bigger and more fun, and work with great talent and, great crew. And then I'm going to run for president.
There you go. Which is like, the easier of the
right.
the other steps.
Maybe do that first.
There's this quote I wrestled in high school, and there's this quote by Dan Gable, I think, that says, once you've wrestled, everything else in life becomes easy. And I think I might say, once you've made movies, everything else in life becomes easy.
Oh, very true.
Including the presidency.
There we go.
Fall into your lap.
Yeah.
Well, I mean, everyone look out for your name and everything for election season. What, 20, 50, 40, 20, what year is it? 2034?
Yeah, well, I mean, we can workshop it.
Yeah, we can workshop it.
Work on the
campaign. Yeah.
We'll make your skin look good and
exactly. Powder me
the
down.
tricks.
Yep.
The accompanying question, which is kind of corny, but you can make it funny or whatever you want. Time capsule for you in 10 years. We're going to record it now, and then we'll send it to you in 10 years. And you can listen to it. So you can tell yourself something in 10 years.
Okay, so
you're recording
right now. I'm
to yourself. Yeah.
Okay, in 10 years. That's good. Hey Sam, I hope you're doing well. I hope you're enjoying that sweet Texas sunset. You got a line in, the bobber's bobbing. You got an ice cold refreshment next to you. You got 2 beautiful babies, a lovely wife, and just a bitchin' truck. And I hope you're happy. Oh, there's the bobber. You better reel that fish in.
There we go. I love it. That's great.
Thank you. Yeah.
You blue neck. You're gonna turn into a blue neck.
A blue neck, a left neck.
Left neck.
Yeah.
Neck.
Yeah.
I've never heard that.
I thought it was blue neck. I thought that was what you were calling yourself.
I just, for the record, I never called myself a blue neck. I think left neck is a phrase
neck,
to
okay.
describe a leftist redneck.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Well,
Do you have
never
any?
mind.
Do you have any final thoughts for the listener?
If you have a skincare company and you're listening to this,
There we
I
go.
shoot some of the best skincare content in LA. I'm great to work with, and I have a lot of experience making skin look dewy. Well, this is the end of the podcast. Now we have to go. We hoped you like it, but if you don't, you can shut the fuck up. Just kidding.